Okay, let's take a look at another example. This one here is for writing comments, and let's say that I have a writing rubric, which I've put in over here, and I've got my different information, my different comments that I want to make for strengths and goals for different writing genres, and they're all put into here, and I've got my different strands that I'm going to be looking at. And I've got some space down here at the bottom to put in other information if I want to later on. So instead of having to type all of these out, I would like to use data validation to go ahead and create drop-down menus. So if I go back to writing here, and inside of here in column D, I want to put narrative strengths. So what I can do is, instead of highlighting the whole data set, I have different data validation rules for each column. So I'm going to highlight this column here, column D, and go ahead and go up to data validation. And this time I already have my information, so I do want to choose this list from range. If I click on the little boxes here from select data range, go ahead and do that, and then it's going to bring up a pop-up menu where it's saying go ahead and tell it what you want it to choose. So I'll go back to the writing rubric, and I have my narrative strengths here. So what I can do is click, and I'm just going to drag this down to that area there and click on OK. And so this is saying that in those from writing cell D2 to D24, use the rubric information from cell B3 to B16 in that writing rubric tab. I'm going to go ahead and select reject input for this and click on save. Now I have my drop-down menus here for my strengths. So I can click, select the strength that I would like, and it would go ahead and put that in. Now what I can do is, if I want to continue this, I can come over here to my narrative goals, highlight those, data validation, list from range again, go back to my writing rubric, and now I'm going to go ahead and select these cells here because those are the ones that I would like. Reject input, save, and now when I go back to my goals, then I have the goals show up. Now that I have these in, what I can do is continue with strengths and goals for nonfiction and the other subject areas as well. One thing that I want you to notice is that we can't see all of this, and so we might want to be able to see all of the text in there. So there are a couple of things you can do. If we go ahead and highlight all of our cells here, we can use text wrapping, and that'll put that in for us. We notice that these boxes get quite large, and so they're a little bit unbalanced, and it stretches our information down. So what you can do as well is you can highlight your columns and you can resize those and get them to an appropriate size that makes sense. The neat thing about with this data validation, if you decided to drag the data validation range down to even to include blank cells, the blank cells will not show up in your drop-down menu until you put information in here. So if I needed to include a new category, or I want to have more information show up, all I need to do is type it in to where I'm getting my data validation information from. And when I go back to my source, I'll see that as an option. Okay, so you can extend these and you can change these and modify them to meet your needs as you go on. One more thing that you can do with data validation is set it up for dates. Sometimes when people type in dates, there are lots of different ways that we can type in dates. We can type it in like this. Some, depending on where you're at, they type it in like this. Or you can do it like this. So lots of different ways to format dates. And not that they're incorrect, but you might want some consistency with that. So we can use data validation to help us with this. So I have some assignments here, and maybe I need to input some due dates for those. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight these areas where I want my dates to go. If I go up to data validation, This time for my criteria, I'm going to go ahead and choose date. And the criteria is it has to be a valid date. And you have some options to choose if you want it to be between a certain date range or on a certain day or before, etc. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as a valid date. And I'm going to click Reject Input and click Save. And you'll notice it looks like nothing has happened. However, if I go onto a cell where I want to put in the date, if I double click, it will bring up the calendar for me. And it's very easy just to go ahead and click on the date that I want. But this way, it's just very easy to double click on a cell, select a date, and there you go.